I am playing with NotebookLM. I do like it. I've done a few things similar to this already, and we are going to talk about how NotebookLM can be a study buddy for your aviation adventures. And so what I did was I am using the R22 helicopter, the Robinson R22 as an example. I uploaded a few sources, pages from the operating handbook and FAA approved rotorcraft, blah, blah, blah. R22 pilot operating handbook excerpts, the R22 pre-flight check, and the R22 pilot operators handbook full book. Okay. And then so up here, you actually see the pre-flight checklist. And so it's 6 pages, but what it does is it counts each fold as a page. And so technically, page 1 is over here, starting with the cowl doors. Page 2 is the engine rear. Nope, I'm sorry. Page 1, let me start all over. Page 1 is the general procedures. Page 2 starts with the cowl doors. Page 3 starts with the engine rear. Page 4 starts with the main rotor. Page 5 is the cabin, and then page 6 is additional items that we don't have anything up. All right, so anyway, so what I did was I already did the audio overview, and I customized it. So I customized it, and my prompt was basically, please help me with the pre-flight check, focus only on the pre-flight check, and try to do an order of the pre-flight check list. And then so I have, oops, sorry. I have that right here. I've listened to it a little bit, and it's relatively good. It didn't start exactly in order, but it does do a good job. So let me start with this, and I'm going to let you listen to it for a few seconds, and I'll tell you what my first concern is.
All right, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at the pre-flight checks for a Robinson R22 helicopter.
Cool.
We'll be going through the pilot's operating handbook and also some of the safety notices related to pre-flight.
Awesome.
So kind of like we're getting ready to fly,
Yeah.
But instead we're just going to be diving into the material.
Right.
And to guide us through this, I've got an expert with me today.
Hey, everybody.
So the R22.
Okay, so the first concern is that he calls his co-host an expert. Now we know that the co-host is not an expert, but as people continue to use tools like this, they forget what they know or what they were aware of, and they assume, and especially if they hear something like that, they think that that person or that virtual being is an expert. And so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit just so you can hear a couple things.
Yes.
Any leaks, and we are not going flying.
Exactly. A fuel leak is a fire hazard, so we want to make sure there are no drips, wet spots, or strong fuel smell.
Better safe than sorry. And then we've got that oil cooler door. What's that all about?
The oil cooler door keeps the engine from overheating, kind of like the radiator in your car.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that door is functioning properly.
Okay, so it opens and closes the way it should.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we're going to check oil lines as well.
Okay.
Make sure there are no leaks or chafing.
Right.
Because chafing can weaken the lines and lead to leaks, which can cause engine problems.
Gotcha. Next up, we've got the exhaust system. What are we looking for there?
Same as before, just looking for any cracks or signs of damage. Cracks in the exhaust system can also lead to leaks.
Yep.
Which can affect the engine performance and could also be a fire hazard.
And then we're giving the engine itself a once-over.
Yep.
Making sure everything looks the way it's supposed to.
Absolutely. You're just looking for...
Okay, so we jumped ahead, and you notice that it started talking about the exhaust systems and the engine general conditions. So I'm going to let it go through a couple just so you can see that it's trying to go in order.
Anything out of the ordinary, loose wires, leaking fluids, any kind of damage, things like that.
Now, onto the V-belt. Seems like just a simple belt.
Right.
But it's pretty important, right?
It is. It transmits the power from the engine to the rotor system.
Wow.
So we're going to check its condition, look for any cracks or fraying, and make sure the slack is not excessive. The handbook says no more than 1.5 inches.
An inch and a half. Okay, why is that so important?
Well, if the belt is too loose,
Hmm.
it could slip or break,
Oh, wow.
which could lead to a sudden loss of power during flight.
Oh,
Okay, so doing pretty good following the order as we skip through. And then now, where is it getting the information that's not written on here? There are other documents in this notebook, and so it is obtaining some of the information from these notebooks. I'm sure that there will be some hallucinations and assumptions made by NotebookLM, but so far everything sounds reasonable. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more.
Top and take a look at the main rotor head.
okay. Up we go.
All right.
What are we looking for up here?
So on top, we're checking the general condition of the rotor head, making sure everything looks the way it's supposed to.
Okay.
And of course, we can't forget about the Jesus bolt.
The Jesus bolt.
The Jesus bolt, that's the bolt that holds the rotor blades to the rotor head.
Wow. Okay.
So we're going to double check that that's safety wire.
Okay, so now it's talking about the Jesus pull, and I don't see that in this document. So again, it's skipping out of this document, going into another document.
Very secure on that bolt.
Sounds important.
It is. We definitely don't want that coming loose in flight.
That sounds terrifying.
Yes.
So given that Jesus bolts the attention it deserves,
And I said pull, I meant bolt.
what's next?
All right, back now on the left side of the fuselage, we're going to check the battery if it's installed,
Okay.
make sure the electrolyte level's good, and it's securely mounted.
Mhm.
The battery powers all those important electrical systems.
Right. Wouldn't want a dead battery.
No.
Okay, what's next on our pre-flight walk around?
Now we're going into the front, the nose section.
Nose section.
Yeah.
What are we looking for up here?
Okay, so it is starting to skip things, and so as it progresses, it is taking more liberal approaches. But let's see, let me see if we can get it back on track.
First up, we'll check the tote tube
Okay.
and make sure that's clear of any obstructions like bugs or debris that measures airspeed. So any blockage could lead to inaccurate readings.
Inaccurate airspeed readings, especially during takeoff and landing.
No.
Not good.
No.
Make sure that windshield is clean and free of any cracks or damage.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we'll test those landing lights.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll check that yaw string.
Yaw.
Make sure that's in place.
What's the yaw string?
That's just a visual indicator of airflow.
Okay.
Which is helpful during slow flight and hovering.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So pay tattoo, windshield, landing lights, yaw string.
Yep.
What's that?
All right, now we're back on the right side of the fuselage for a few more checks.
Okay.
We'll take another look at the landing gear on this side just to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll check that position light again.
Okay.
And make sure the door hinge safety pins are installed.
Door hinge safety pins. Those sound pretty important.
They prevent the doors from accidentally opening during flight.
Okay.
We've all seen those videos of doors flying open during takeoff.
Yeah.
Not only is it embarrassing, it can be a distraction and affect the helicopter's performance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's not something you want to have to deal with.
No.
Okay, before we climb inside, we'll take a peek in the baggage compartment,
Sounds good.
making sure everything is secure and within the weight limits.
Right.
Okay, let's head into the cabin and check out the interior.
All right.
It's starting to feel like we're actually getting ready to fly.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But there are still.
All right, so it's not doing too bad. I guess I could go through, I could download the transcript and see if it missed anything, but I will skip that part for now. And let's do this. Let's go back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of this and I'm going to do interactive mode. So now with interactive mode, it's going to start back at the beginning, but I am going to ask a couple of specific questions just to demonstrate to you that the responses from the virtual host. So let's give it a shot. So now we're in interactive mode. I'm going to change this just a little bit while we're talking about it. All right, so down here, I hit play. When I hit play, I can hit join and I can ask a question or I can interject. And so I'm going to do 3 interjections.
So that's full.
Okay.
And there are no leaks.
All right, so it's actually started in another spot. So let's do restart. And let's pause. Let's do restart, pause, and start play.
All right, welcome back for another day dive. Today we're going to be looking at the pre-flight checks for a Robinson R22 helicopter.
Oh.
We'll be going through the pilot's operating handbook and also also some of the safety notices related to pre-flight.
Awesome.
So kind of like we're getting ready to fly.
Yeah.
But instead, we're just going to be diving into the material.
Right.
And to guide us through this, I've got an expert with me today.
Hey, everybody.
All right, so notice he called the other host an expert already. So I'm going to join and I'm going to ask about that.
So whoa, did someone just break the fourth wall? Let's hear it.
Hi there. You mentioned that you may be an expert. Can you provide your certifications or why you are an expert?
Well, I wouldn't call myself an expert on everything.
Yeah, well, what kind of expertise do you bring to the table?
I've spent years studying aviation safety.
Okay.
I'm pretty familiar with the Robinson R22, the Pilot's Operating Handbook.
Okay, so notice it's embellishing, and we know that it absorbed this information today, and maybe through the training it has absorbed this information years ago, but you can kind of conclude that this is an embellishment to make this audio overview a little bit more exciting or adventurous and more lifelike as a simulated process, but it's definitely not totally accurate.
And common issues.
So you can help us navigate the ins and outs.
Exactly. I'm here to provide insights and context.
Awesome. Let's get back to it.
Sounds good.
So the R22 handbook really emphasizes how important pre-flight checks are.
Absolutely.
Even for experienced pilots. Why is that?
Yep. Go on.
Thank you for trying to do an overview, but can we start with the checklist and start with the Caldors number 1, please?
Absolutely. Let's dive right into the pre-flight checklist.
Sounds good.
We can definitely start with those cowl doors.
Okay.
And we can go through the checklist item by item.
Yeah.
Is that something that would be useful to you?
Absolutely. Let's walk through it together, our listener.
All right. So number 1 on the checklist is cowl doors.
So that is part of the daily or pre-flight checks.
Okay.
And the very first sub-item under the cowl doors is the battery switch.
Okay.
So what's the procedure for that?
Battery switch on.
Exactly. The checklist says to turn the battery switch on.
So easy enough.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we do that first?
Well, turning the battery switch on powers up the electrical system,
Okay.
which allows us to check the lights and other systems before we start the engine.
So what's next after we flip that switch?
The next item is oil pressure and alternator lights on.
So what are we looking for there?
We're verifying that those lights illuminate when the battery switch is on.
Okay.
That confirms the lights are.
So I kind of like the way it's breaking it down. If you really needed to do this and you're walking around, it might prolong your walkthrough, but it is nice to go through this and try to explain things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let it finish what they're talking about, and then I'm going to ask them if they can just mention the different categories, the main bullet points like the cowl doors and engine right side. And I'm going to ask them to list those first and then go back to engine right side. I'm going to start with number 2.
Working.
All right, so those lights are doing their job. What's next?
Now we are going to do the warning light test switches. Push to test.
Warning light test switches.
Yes.
Okay, so why do we need it?
Oh, yeah,
Hey, this is working really good, but to help speed a few things up, can you just mention first, can you mention the main categories like the cowl doors is number 1, the engine right side is number 2. Can you go through those steps first as main categories?
Great idea. I can definitely give you the main categories first.
Yeah, that way you can get the big picture before we dive in.
All right, so after the cowl doors, which we've been discussing, we move to the engine right side.
Okay.
Then we check the tail cone. After that, we'll move to the engine left side.
Gotcha.
Then the main fuel tank.
Fuel's important.
Absolutely. Next, we're on the main.
Okay, so notice that it's not quite correct. So let me see if I can correct them.
Radar.
Okay. Oh, go for it.
Hey, so you guys, I'm looking at the numbers for these main categories, and I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I see cowl doors for 1, engine right side for 2. I see engine rear for number 3. Can you start with number 4?
You are totally right.
Haha, sorry about that.
I missed a few.
Okay, after the engine rear, which you correctly identified as number 3.
Yes.
Next up is the empennage.
Number 4.
That's right. And then number 5 is the tail cone.
Getting it all straightened out.
Then we move to the engine left side. That's number 6.
Okay.
Number 7 is the main fuel tank.
We definitely need that.
Then we have number 8, the main rotor.
Getting
Hey, yeah.
Hey,
What's up?
sorry. Let's start with 5 is tail rotor, 6 is tail cone, 7 is engine left side. I think number 8. Yeah, I think you mentioned number 8.
You know what?
Wow.
Let's just go back to the pilot's operating handbook
Okay,
and we'll go in order.
sounds good.
Number 1 is cowl doors.
Which we've already covered.
Yes. Number 2 is engine right side.
Also covered.
Number 3 is engine rear.
Yep.
So number 4, according to the handbook, is empennage.
Right.
Then number 5, tail rotor.
Got it.
Number 6, tail cone.
Okay.
Number 7, engine left side.
Makes sense.
Then number 8 is main fuel tank.
Gotta have fuel.
Number 9, main rotor.
Okay.
You're right. I got ahead of myself.
Thanks for keeping us on track.
Let's get these categories right and then get into the details.
We appreciate you helping us get this right.
Okay, so number 5 is the tail rotor.
Correct.
10 fuselage. Oh, yeah.
Hey,
Go on.
sorry. You were doing great. So we ended with 9. So can you continue reading the main points, which is 10 is fuselage left side. Then we have 11, 12, 13, and then additional items. Can you mention what 10, 11, 12, and 13 are, please?
No worries at all.
Happy to read those for you,
So number 10 is fuselage left side.
as you mentioned.
Then we have number 11, fuselage right side.
Almost there.
Number 12 is the
Oh, go for it.
Hey, you missed number 11. You got the wrong one. Can you look again?
You're totally right. I jumped again.
Okay, so number 10 is fuselage left side.
Got it.
Number 11 is nose section.
Now that makes more sense.
Number 12 is fuselage right side.
We were so close.
And finally, number 13 is cabin interior.
Okay, we're on the same page now. Anything else we missed?
Nope, that should be it.
So we have a clearer picture now.
Exactly. Now that we've ironed out the list.
Where do you want to go next?
Well, we finished cowl doors, engine right side, and engine rear.
So let's go to empennage.
Sounds good to me.
All right, first up, horizontal stabilizer dot check.
And what exactly are we?
Okay, so not perfect, but if you're paying attention and you know the material a little bit, you can get them to focus back on everything. And it actually helps you learn a little bit more too, because you are participating. Actually, even though I think that it didn't do it perfectly for where we are right now, I think this is a great tool as a study buddy. And I think it's worth a try. But again, remember, it will hallucinate, it will embellish and exaggerate, and it will take some creative liberties. You just have to know the material to a certain degree to get through that and make sure that everything is correct. The responsibility is still on you when you're studying, and it is not Google, Gemini, Notebook, LM's responsibility to make sure that you understand your material well enough for you to participate in a discussion with the Notebook LM. So it is a good study buddy. I would use it. I do use it, but I do go back and I check everything, and I try to be alert to some of the things that it's doing and saying that may be exaggerations, like I said, embellishments, totally full hallucinations, etc. So now I'm going to download this, and I am going to say custom discussion, and I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to get the transcript. And then, so that's how you can use it as a study buddy. You can add more sources. If you don't want those sources to be used, you can uncheck them. You can go back and forth. When you do this stuff, though, you do have to, if you want to keep going back and forth with discussions, you have to come back up here and start all over. Not a big deal. Actually works pretty good. So I hope you enjoy this little demo. Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.